You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. Today we are lucky to welcome to our studio actress, model, singer, and photographer Shari Belafonte.
And not necessarily in that order.
Good point. Thank you. We're gonna get into all of that stuff. Shari is currently starring in the new TV show, The Morning Show. And to any fan of fashion photography, she's well known, well recognized. Her face has been on the cover of Vogue, Mademoiselle, Jet, Glamour, and God knows how many other magazines, and more times than we can count. It's like you could. 300, you could hurt yourself carrying your portfolio. Lift with your knees. Lift with your knees. Wow. And not too many people could say that their very first Vogue cover, and not many.
And
people,
obviously, you can't say it.
I can't. And not many people can say that their first Vogue cover shot was taken by none other than Richard Avedon.
I know. Oof.
That's pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
Yeah, where do you go from there?
Oh, wow. Well, Shari is a well-rounded artist. She's also released several albums, which is not surprising given that her dad is Harry Belafonte. And we were talking early before the show that his music played in my uncle's house across the street from me all the time, and I'm very familiar with it. Today, though, we're going to be talking with Shari about photography. So let's get into it. Shari, welcome to our show. It's so great having you here today.
So good to be here.
So you have grown up around cameras. Now, as a little kid,
all my life,
right?
All my life.
Cameras were aimed at you mostly because, again, your dad was front and center. He was big deal back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. He broke down a lot of walls. And again, everybody's familiar with his music and his acting and everything else. So you're smiling, you're laughing about something.
What's
Go
interesting
ahead.
is I was very hyperactive attention deficit as a child. I still am, but a little more, I curtail it with certain things now. That Jamaican Native American blood, allows me to do.
She's also wearing a bright orange cap right now. You want to talk about attention?
It's a Nike. It's Nike.
It's
with
nice.
With purple, purple and orange. There you go.
Don't rob a bank today. They're going to find you fast. Don't. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
My grandmother gave me my first Brownie camera. Now, that's how far back I go. With the, I had the fan flash that you'd put the little light bulb in.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. So I had that when I was 4 years old.
How many megapixel was that?
Yeah. And you would get this little tiny roll of film, that you would put inside that camera. Yep. And that was my first foray into being behind the camera. And then Instamatics. Got an Instamatic when I was, I think, I had the funny little Polaroid camera that I've had them all. Mm-hmm. And my first legitimate camera was a Pentax when I was 11 years old.
Okay.
I was in boarding school. I skipped 2 grades.
Spotmatic or H3V?
It was, I can't remember. It was a 35 millimeter Pentax camera that was Dad's first.
Oh, Dad had a Spotmatic. That was the top of the line one. Okay.
And he passed it down to me. So my entire high school was spent in the darkroom. I smelled like a developer for, that was really attractive smell coming out of it.
Yeah, yellow fingernails, the whole thing.
Yeah. And sitting in the dark, rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. And then, praying that you could put it in the can, it would come out and it wasn't all crumpled and, So, yeah, I spent a good part of my earlier years behind the camera. And then, of course, like you said, being Harry's daughter, when he was on tour somewewhere and there was paparazzi or there were people taking pictures of us all the time. And then Harry took pictures of us all the time that we never saw. And it was the biggest joke because he'd always go, get over there, get over there, get over there. Stop, stand there. So there are hundreds and hundreds of pictures that were taken of us by Harry and we've never seen a single one. Not a single picture.
And why do you think that's the case? Did he just too busy to kind of develop?
I don't know if he ever developed them. I don't know if there was even film in the camera. I think he had these Leicas and he just kept shooting. Yeah. Once in a while we saw him because when he was touring, he would have these, the program with this, and it was always the big color program that would come with, you buy a ticket and there would be pictures of us, in there. And we go, did Dad shoot that picture?
So around the house was photography kind of a respected medium? Was it an art? Did your dad have?
It was an art. He did have a dark room, which he never went into. He just had it in the back next to his recording studio.
Nice.
But
He did use a recording studio, though,
he
right?
had a recording
okay,
studio.
all right.
He did use the recording studio.
Okay.
But yeah, we always have been shutterbugs. I think the whole family, definitely me, more so than I think my siblings. But Harry was definitely behind a camera. He was into Leicas. He was a very likable Leica kind of guy.
Understandable.
And what about with the paparazzi and stuff? I mean, maybe it wasn't. Well, I can't even say that it wasn't like it is now because paparazzi's been all over
it's
the
worse
place.
now.
Yeah. But was it a pain in the butt? Was it something that you guys?
I was so used to it by then.
Yeah.
Because what happened was Harry and Marguerite, my mom was Marguerite. She passed away a few years ago, but they divorced when I was very young. They actually separated when mom was pregnant with me. So there was always that kind of people trying to take pictures of that dynamic that was going on.
But there was a little more of a sense of decency, for lack of better words, with paparazzi.
True.
I mean, now it's like
anything
goes. There were lines that were not crossed back then. I mean, they took chances and stuff like that, and they definitely probably got under your skin, but probably worse today.
And usually I think it was more of a magazine would come in, Ebony magazine would come in and say, can we shoot you at home? And there was a story that was behind it, and maybe the attorneys would go, yeah, it's a good idea. Let's push that, Yeah, we've always been around cameras.
So when you started taking pictures for yourself, aside from family, what kind of things interested you? What sort of
in the early days, because I was in boarding school in Massachusetts, so I've always been a fan of black and white. I never learned how to process color, and of course slides, I guess, were the first things you sort of learned. I never learned how to process, but I was always into the dynamic of black and white. So with the snow in Massachusetts, there was always the lights and shadows, and streams, and falling through the ice. Save the camera. I shot landscapes, mostly landscapes, and then I shot everything. And then as I got older and could start affording stuff, I actually stopped shooting for a while. And then when Sam and I got married 35 years ago, Sam gave me my first EOS camera. I was by then already onto Canon cameras, but I had A1 and that grade. But then Sam gave me my first EOS camera after maybe not shooting for 10 years, and we went on our honeymoon to Italy, and I just shot like crazy, like bags and bags of film that I was carrying. And at the time, Kodak made what was called recording film. And the recording film
2475 recording and it as soon as you develop, it would turn into a corkscrew that you could never hold flat.
That I didn't know because by then I wasn't processing my own shit. But the recording
ISO 3200?
Film, you could set the rating to whatever you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you couldn't with any film, but this was if you decided to shoot at 60, or if you wanted to shoot 100, if you wanted to shoot 3200 or 6400. Just remember what you shot that at, and you'd process it. Like if I shot 400, I'd process at 360. I'd process it at 400, but I'd shoot at 360.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the detail it's crazy. It's like megapixels. It's like 8,000 megapixels. And I just fell in love with that. And then when Kodak stopped making it because they said, well, nobody's buying it because it was $12 a roll. And I went, no, I'm buying it. No, please keep making it. Yeah. And then shortly after, film just kind of went by the wayside.
And now it's coming back.
Is it coming back?
It is.
Yeah.
Sales were up 20% last year.
So you now actually have to try and find a film camera. Right?
Well, that's the whole thing.
I still actually have a Rebel.
Okay.
Isn't it Rebel?
Yeah. The original Rebels were film cameras, and then they came out with what was called the digital Rebel, 3.6 megapixel. Woohoo!
But I did have, I was it was the Canon 30, 30, and I started shooting movies. Friends of mine who were directors said, would you shoot stills for our movie? And I remember going in to get a sound blimp made for my digital camera. And the guy said, you and Steven Spielberg's guy are the only people that have blimps for these, the A30, A60, whatever I had at the time.
An Albertson blimp, right?
Yeah,
Jacobson.
Exactly.
Jacobson. They recently closed down. There's no need for them anymore.
Exactly. And, now I've got this whole blimp box downstairs in the garage.
So you should have borrowed one of your dad's Leicas because Leicas don't need the blimp. Next time.
Yeah, but I had 8,000 lenses for my Canon by then.
But no, I worked on a movie as recently as 2015 15 and with a digital camera, and they required a blimp. I had to go rent one. Jacobson for this
Oh,
case.
yeah?
Yeah. I mean, even that little click, if you're on set, the sound guy will kill
Right.
you. So.
Now we have
And you're
dead
shooting
silent
8,000 frames, so
Yeah.
At one point, because I was, especially digital, you shoot so fast.
Yeah.
The first movie I did shoot, I had asked Mimi Leader's a friend of mine, and she also is the executive producer and director of The Morning Show.
Okay.
But at the time, going back, 15, 20 years or whenever it was that I was shooting this, I said to her, this is the first time I'm shooting for a movie. What do I? She said, just keep shooting. Shoot. Just shoot. So I did. I shot 8,778 frames. Wow. And thought, okay, and I'll
be one good one
I'll
in
put
there,
them all,
right?
I'll put them all and give them, and they went, oh no, we just need your best 100.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, can I say that F word?
Yeah.
My God. I went, oh God. And it took me like 3 weeks to go through every single one of those. And because it looked like I was shooting a movie. It was like framed. It was like, everything was so slightly different. And you go, oh.
So what was your takeaway from that experience?
I don't understand, really.
Get an editor.
Yeah.
That's it. That's right.
Go back to that 5-roll mentality. You only have a budget for 3 to 5 rolls, and that's what you shoot.
Well, did shooting digital, change anything when you shoot? Because obviously it did change a lot for a lot of people, and this idea of shooting maybe too much or a lot, or just the freedom that it can give you. Sometimes it really changed a lot of people's photography.
Well, now everything is. It's cyclical. Now I've barely picked up my camera.
Yeah.
Now I also have a Sony 7R.
Right. And a phone.
But I'm shooting with my Samsung, with my Galaxies.
Yeah.
The Galaxy, the first Galaxy, I think I had a Note 4, one of the earlier ones. The best pictures I'd ever seen. I went, oh my God, look at these pictures that I'm getting on my phone. And now I have a lot of my family's mostly Apple. Nothing, not against Apple, but Galaxies have much better pictures. The Samsung just really has the better technology. You're shooting with your phone. And I know friends of mine even say, your pictures are so much better than mine. Why is that? It's like, well, I've got a Samsung. And they go, well, if Samsung only made, I said, and get another phone. Just get your Samsung for shooting your stills. But I still like the weight of having a camera and shooting with a camera.
Yeah, it's a different
It's a different animal. Yeah. But now, there's a difference for photographers. I never was what we'd call a professional photographer. I mean, I had gallery shows and stuff, but I'm not like Greg Gorman, who was in here, who's a good friend of mine. I didn't shoot, and I'm not making money like that as a photographer. And right now, you can take so many pictures. I mean, anybody can get a good picture with their phone. You can. It's easier to get good pictures now than it used to be. You'd have to have a professional photographer do that. Well, now, people take headshots with their phones. You can shoot movies with your iPhone.
You can do anything.
Which kind of makes us, forces us to kind of rethink what we should be taking pictures of and how many pictures we should be taking, kind of reassess kind of the nature of it. And that's happening, I think.
Yeah,
even with this return to film, we're seeing people kind of wanting to slow back down a little bit. Maybe.
Yeah, it's basically trying to figure out what's the basis of it. That's really what it is.
It's a medium. It's like if you're an oil painter, or if you're into acrylics, or if you're into pencil drawings, or if you're into sculpture. It's all worthy. It's just a matter of what your taste is and what it is that you're shooting at that moment.
Right. What's your favorite subject to shoot when you just go out? Say, I'm assuming you at times. And correct me if I'm wrong, do you just take a camera and go out every once in a while? I
have a camera all the time. I was walking back from the theater last night because I live on, when I'm here, I live at my friend's house on 80th and Central Park West. And, I walked all the way back. And then suddenly it's that black and white, it's that light. I started looking how many John Seffys and once in a while I'm going, ooh, here's another picture I shot. Oh, here's another picture I shot. I'm just emailing in pictures going, and here's another thing. Because they say, what's your subject? It's like whatever in front of me at the time that just catches my moment.
This morning, every time he got up to get a cup of coffee, he goes, there's another picture. He kept sitting down. He was like a jack in the box this morning.
Wait, and I do video. Wait, here's a music video I shot. Oh, here's a short movie I did.
And do you think the connectivity of the phone has changed anything about your photography in the sense of sharing it, enjoying it?
It's made it more immediate because you can whip up your phone and get something. I mean, I have Sam and I have 7 dogs. So at one point, my phone had 9,000 pictures of the dogs. Oh, look at the dogs doing now. Oh my God, look at this. Check this out, honey. And then, you're texting it back and forth. And it's like, oh, love. Oh my God, dogs. Gotta love them.
So can we talk a little bit about the modeling career? Because I'd love to kind of get some, I don't know, some thoughts
insight?
Some insight.
As to how to go about it?
John's interested, and he's been playing with the idea.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you sit for how many covers of major magazines? And I mean, what was your interaction at the time with the photographers? Were you talking, learning, or was it just, okay, I'm here to do my job as a model? And
actually, the way I got discovered was I took my camera down. A friend of mine was in a movie with Tony Danza. I think it was called Hollywood Nights. This is going back in 1979, 1980, something like that. Yeah. And she said, "Bring your camera. Maybe you can get some pictures of the celebrities." And so I came down, and it happened to be a night that it was a big party scene. So the makeup artist thought that I was part of the background. And she said, come into the trailer and get makeup on. I went, what? No. I'm just here to find my friend. So she said, you should be modeling. And I went, don't be silly. Right. And she said, no, you can make a lot of money doing that. And then you said, ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, also, talk to me.
Wait a second. Yeah. So
Can I buy you a coffee?
So a friend of mine who was also at Carnegie Mellon, because we went to Carnegie Mellon together, and he was a photographer. He was we were all in lighting and production, because I wasn't in acting, I was in production. Mm-hmm. And so he just shot a couple of pictures of me. I've been around the business all my life. I understood headshots. It was a complete beast that I didn't know anything about. So he shot a couple of pictures. I sent it to 10 agents, and Nina Blanchard, who at the time was the leading modeling agent and commercial agent in Los Angeles, she got my picture and she called me in. And I'll never forget, because it was like a long newsroom. She would sit at the back of the room and she could see everybody. All her little bees were sitting around buzzing and on the phone and booking talent. And she looks up, and she had this bright red hair, and she kind of looked up over her glasses and saw me sitting way over in the corner. And, she nods to the girl and says, bring her in. So I get up and walk across, and obviously didn't get any taller because I'm only 5'4". And she says, sit down, honey. And at the time I was married to Bob Harper, so I just wrote Shari Harper. I didn't say Belafonte. So she looks at me and she goes, you're not tall. You're not young, because I was 24, I think, or 23. And I wasn't SAG or AFTRA. I wasn't in the union. She said, you're not SAG, you're not AFTRA. What the hell am I going to do with you? She said, but you got to look. Let me see what we can do.
Did she know who you? Did she know?
She didn't know who I was.
Okay, go ahead.
So she said, where's your portfolio? And I went, my what? She went, oh, God. So she set me up with a photographer. And it was the first time that I was getting makeup done, makeup. And it was 2.5 hours of getting makeup done. And I remember thinking, well, fuck, if I'm this ugly, it takes 2 hours to do makeup. Well, why am I even... So after, and I'm not looking in the mirror to see what he's doing, and she's doing the makeup, and she's doing the makeup, and finally, he takes the first Polaroid, because back then we took Polaroids to get the lighting right. And I look at the Polaroid, and I went, damn, look at that girl, she looks good.
Who is this?
Yeah, exactly, I really did. So he took a bunch of pictures, because she had different water. It was a husband and wife team, so they put together a portfolio for me in one day, and I took it back to Nina. There was like 7 or 8 shots in there, and she said, all right, now you're ready to go out. And then that was it. And, from then on, I would go out. My first commercial audition was really fun because, I didn't have my union card. There was a woman by the name of, Trudy Booth. And Trudy Booth cast probably 75% of the national spots in California at the time. And I went in, and it was a cattle call. There was 300 people there, and they're taking Polaroids. All right, you get in that line, you get in that line. So I went into a room with 10 other people, and it was really a sitcom because I went in, I had no idea how it was going to go down. So they lined everybody up, and I'm standing at the end of the line, kind of looking down the line, saying, all right, well, let me see what they do, and I'll just copy what they do. And the guy has the video camera and goes, all right, slate your name and, tell me a little bit about yourself. Hi, I'm John Smith. I'm 19, and I like surfing. I like skiing, but I really love roller skating. I've been roller skating since I was 2, and okay, I'm with whoever, the agency. And hi, I'm Mary Jane. I'm 21. And, I've been roller skating since I was 12, blah, 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 blah. Everyone, and by the time it got to me, I went, shit, they're all skaters. And it comes to me and they go, hi, I'm Shari Harper. I'm with Nina Blanchard. And the guy goes, yeah, and? And I went, I like sports.
I don't skate.
I don't skate.
And he said, and how long have you been skating? And I went, I've never skated in my life. And every one of the 9 heads snapped to attention to look down at me. And I went, oh, this is humiliating. So I left, and back then we didn't have cell phones. So I left, sat in my car. I was crying in the car going, this is just awful. Got home. And there's my answering machine. You got to call back, go to the San Vicente Park and get your roller skates. Wait. And I called her and I said, I don't roller skate. Well, rent a pair and, go to the San Vicente Park. And I went, oh God. So rent a pair. And I happened to see a pair of roller skates. It was like a shop, because that was back in those disco roller skating days. Sure. So there was a store that I had passed, and I went in. I said, can I borrow a pair of skates? Yeah, you can get a pair, sure, borrow them. I go to the San Vicente Park, put them on. And of course, everybody's dancing around in circles and doing the whole thing. And I fall flat on my ass, constantly. And again, it's just the most humiliating thing. And, I go back, I'm still crying, and drop the skates off, get to the home machine. You book the commercial, you have to be at Santa Monica Pier tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. And I went, what? This makes no sense. Get your skates. I went, So I go back to the store and go, I got to buy the skates. And they said, oh, you got the commercial. I went, apparently. So I go down. Sure enough, I look at the contract, because I'm not SAG-AFTRA. I look at the contract, and I'm looking through it going, and it says stunt skater. And I went, whoa.
Well, you didn't know how to skate, so you are a stunt skater.
So what happened was I called the PA, and I said, you got to get the director in here, because you guys made a mistake. I said, a huge mistake, and I want whoever it was you think I was, make sure they booked the commercial. And the director came in, he said, no, you were so bad, and we have to have somebody that's really bad. Your boyfriend's going to help you learn how to skate. And I was like, alrighty then. And that's how I got my SAG card.
Now, and you were still using the name Harper, right? Is that?
Yeah.
So were they kind of clueless as to who you were, who your dad was?
Well, no, by that time, no, that's right. I was still Sherry Harper. They didn't know. Nina Blanchard found out about, I was with her 9 months before she found out. Because when I went in at one day, one of the bookers said, are you Harry's kid? And I went, yeah. And he was like, wow, okay. And didn't say anything. And then Nina, like a week later, called me and, Jerry, get in here. Uh-oh, what did I do?
So you really did get in on your own merits. You really did.
Well, yeah.
Which is,
sort of. I look at his face. I look exactly like Harry.
No two ways about it. I'm sure, Chris. However, it's got to be satisfying to know that, you know what? Yeah, there's no two ways about it. I got a lot of doors I could open up just by smiling and looking the right way. But this was...
You'd be surprised, though, because what happens is, because Nina said, put your name back in. And I wasn't working daily. Mm-hmm. I probably had done 2 commercials, and like a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial or something, or a McDonald's commercial, or did something. But when Nina said, put your name back in, and I went, but, she said, no. She said, use that name. You've got to use that name. So I did add the name back in. But what happens there is that people in the entertainment industry really scrutinize you, and they don't want you to do well. They really do not want you to do well. So it becomes tougher. You really do have to buck up, because they want you to fail.
That's in any creative endeavor, I believe. That's part of the competition thing. But
sure.
It's definitely, they want to see you flop, because you're not getting in on his coattails.
Right.
You got to earn it yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. And did you take to the whole kind of world of being in front of the camera pretty easily? Did you?
Yeah,
did you
back then I was used to it. Certainly growing
Yeah.
up and seeing Dad being in front of the camera all the time.
You were always being stared at, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, but modeling's different than just being stared at. I mean, you have to work. You have to know your looks. You have to work with the photographers. All these things are not. People think it's easy, but it's not necessarily
easy.
So,
because you're shooting fur coats in the summertime because of the cyclical time that they're going to print the stuff. And you're doing bathing suits in the wintertime. So you're flying, you're going, and it's not just being pretty. Sometimes you're in these very awkward positions for a long time. Your arm's falling asleep, your feet are falling asleep. I mean, it's obviously it's a little easier than being a jackhammer, guy that's out there.
But often you're just a living prop.
Mostly you're a prop.
Yeah.
And if you're 5 pounds overweight, your agent's telling you you're fat, go lose the weight.
He gives me this same all the time. John gives me this all the time.
Well, you keep breaking your diet. I mean, I kills me.
And then at one point, because I was never anorexic, I always loved food, but I got the movie. It's called If You Could See What I Hear. This was the first feature that I was doing. And Nina said to me in a nice way, she said, if the camera puts 10 pounds on you, you may want to consider that fact. And I went, okay, I get it. So I said, I'll just stop eating sugar because I love candy bars and so I didn't eat lots of dessert. So I'll just stop eating sugar for a while. And I didn't have any mirrors in our house. We just didn't. We had the cabinet mirror in the bathroom. That was it. And if we were going out, I'd stand on the side of the tub and go, I'm okay, yeah, okay. So I went to Canada to shoot this, and it was the first time the condo that I was renting had a big mirror in the bathroom. And I went in and turned on the shower and, took off my clothes and turned around and looked in the mirror. I looked so emaciated that I went, oh, God. And then actually the producer said, they called Nina and said, is she okay? She looks really skinny. And I went, don't worry, I'll fix that. No problem.
She needs candy bars.
Yeah, I need some candy bars. So I did. I started beefing right up again.
Wow. You could have just told him to get a bigger camera.
Use that 14 millimeter lens. I mean, I'll look a lot fatter.
And
and as you can see, that's not my my problem now. I weigh more than Dad does, right? Anyway.
All right. Well,
there's a segue for you.
Sure. Well, while we're here, can I ask how is he doing? Because
he's doing good.
He's doing well. And
he's doing good. It's hard for him to get around. He's physically, mentally, he's still very much on top of it. And the physicality, he has to use a walker now. So
my mom's 96, so I kind of get that.
Not happy about that, and so he'd rather not go out in public than to be seen with that.
I kind of want to know a bit more about your interaction on the set and modeling and this whole idea, if you don't mind. Anyway, just to maybe understand what you might have picked up from the photographers you work with, and I don't know how to really phrase the question other than that. Were you getting into it more and more at that point and thinking, all right, how can I expand my work? Or you're just like, that part of me is done for a bit now? Because
interesting is that I was doing a commercial for, God, who was it for? I can't remember, but John Fowler. Do you know John Fowler, who does film in Times Magazine? He's an ARRI rep.
Name.
He's an ARRI rep.
Okay.
So he had just brought out. It wasn't the ARRI Alexa. It was ARRI's first smaller camera that was shoulder mounted. And while I'm on camera, the whole time I'm kind of I'm reading the copies coming through on the teleprompter.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm that thing that's called
the thing
sounds like so I'm reading the copy, and then he'd stop because he was shooting this whole thing with this camera. It was brand new for him too. So he even said, "Do you mind? We're going to do some background stuff with this camera while we're shooting." And I went, only if I get permission to learn how to use that camera.
Okay.
And, the crew was like, what did she say? It's like, no, I said, I want, let me go to ARRI and give me a crash course on how to use that camera. And he said, okay, she'll ever do it. And of course, I started calling up going, can I come now? Can I come now?
Did you have a particular project in mind when you asked that question? Or was it just saying, I want to do this?
I want to do this.
Okay.
I'm a certified Steadicam operator. Go figure, right?
Hey.
And I had my brother's Steadicam, and of course the whole thing, the whole time I'm arguing, going, you guys don't know how to make Steadicams for women. The whole center of gravity is lower. We don't have this up here. We need to have it down here. And they're going, yeah, all right. Well, when you want your Steadicam rig, you can have it designed the way you want to do it.
Yeah.
So needless to say, I never did that because
That's
after
actually
a while,
a really good point.
Yeah, no, because after a while you sort of go, no, I'm not going to be schlepping those big heavy cameras around.
Yeah.
But
most Steadicam guys that's their job only. It's a specific thing. They get their crew and they rent it out if they need to and whatnot.
We had a little Panasonic A200, so the lighter cameras are easy enough. And it's easy enough to walk around with them for a while. I mean, I was shooting music videos. I was shooting like a couple of things like that. And walking around with it, I would not even think about how heavy it was getting until you go to put it back up on the rack for a while, and you're going, oh my God, what was I thinking? That thing is, my arms are tired, my legs are tired. But there's the mindset of being behind the camera I think being in front of the camera gives you the wherewithal to be behind the camera and vice versa.
Yeah.
When I was studying production, because I always had anticipated I was going to be a director and production designer when I got out of school, I took acting classes primarily to understand what the actor, I mean, I saw Dad on set and everything, but I sort of felt in my age bracket, I needed to know what it was that the actor had to go through in order to have a sensibility of what it is that they need and how to accommodate them.
So you could relate to them.
And I could relate to them,
Yeah.
and using blue filters and, red filters and what these filters are going to do and, putting hat filters in. And, I would be on the sets and watch what they were doing. And, back in those days, that's when we were shooting film. Now you just do everything digitally. So you sort of, you manipulate everything in post. But it always felt proper for me to do all of it to get a sense of where everybody is in the scheme of this crazy business. That way I became a Jane of all trades, master of nothing, but at least I had a sensibility. And, I can talk to people when they're first-time directors go, look, that's not the way you talk to talent. Not that talent. She ain't going to respond that way. Or he's going to respond that way, and vice versa. When there's a video, it's like I said, I kept sending him things. There's a little video called Betty's Treats, and the girl that is the lead in it was the first time she was directing. So basically, I became the director because I was her DP, and I was brought in because the woman that was going to DP her ended up getting a bigger gig. So she said, Shari, enough with you doing stills on the set. You DP her movie. So I ended up DPing. We shot the entire thing in one day. As a matter of my music video, we did the same thing, shot in one day. You started at 7 a.m, went to midnight. And there's a moment in Betty's Treats where there was one shot, and I said, it's the money shot. You always want to think of the money shot. It's this shot where they walk up to what's supposed to be the banister over the fireplace, and they're looking at a photo. And I said, we have to get that from behind. So as they're walking up, it's behind the photo, behind the picture frames. And everybody's looking at me going, but that's a real, mantle on the wall. What are you thinking? Yeah. And I said, no, we're going to figure this out. I said, and it's going to be the last shot of the day, but we're doing that shot. To me, it's the money shot of this little 7-minute video. So sure enough, we've got everything. And a good friend of mine was Illumination Dynamics, which is Ari's lighting arm. He went to school together. So when I called him, I was, can I borrow some lights for this little movie that has no budget? And he said, come over, get whatever you need. So I had like a truck full of 10Ks and everything.
Nothing like friends, boy.
And, friends from Carnegie Mellon. So let me just drop that in there. Mm-hmm. So at the last thing, we got a block of wood. I put the camera up, and I'm standing right up against the wall. I had tilt the little thing down, so I'm looking at it, and I'm flat up against the wall to get this shot. And sure enough, to me, it's like it made that movie. Mm-hmm. And everybody's going, what shot?
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
To me, it's like the best shot in the whole thing.
Yeah, that happens to us a lot.
Something I'm curious about. You spent a lot of time in front of a camera.
Right.
Okay, having people directing you and everything else. What takeaways did you have when you started taking pictures of people for yourself when you were behind the camera? What kind of takeaways did you have? What things made impressions saying, I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do that? And you already mentioned one about communicating, how to talk to talent.
It is communicating. It's also, I've had to take, not had to, but, people have said, can you shoot headshots? And there's some people, and they're not all necessarily talent. There was a couple of attorneys in there. There was a couple of agents in there. But they needed headshots because they're going to go in the trade. Something's coming up. And it's trying to make that person feel comfortable and look as good as they can on camera. It's making sure it's the right angle. You're shooting a little bit higher than somebody just emailed me. A friend of ours just emailed us saying, can you and Sam come over? I'm learning how to take headshots, and I'd love to. And here's some samples. And she sent me some samples. I went, great samples. Get a ladder. and she went, I texted her back. I went, these are really cute. And I said, but really, you need to be a little bit higher than your subject, so you shoot down and get rid of the double chin and and make them get the fan for the girls that got pretty hair because they want to see the wind blowing in their hair. And I said, and I said, make sure that there's music that they like. If you're into Frank Sinatra, or if you're into Carl Cox, some hip hop house music. I said, you want to make that environment as comfortable for the person as possible because then they'll feel more relaxed. And whatever you can do, you can fix it in Photoshop or Post. So, And I do a lot of Photoshop. That was the other thing. After Richard Avedon shot, here's a perfect example. Richard Avedon, I always had a crush on Richard.
Yeah.
We lived on the Upper West Side. Every once in a while I'd see him, and he was acquaintances with Dad and Julie. And man, I wanted to be his girlfriend. Had nothing to do with being a model. Yeah. But I think what happened, because the first commercials I did as Nina's, I did like I said, I did either Burger King or McDonald's or one of those, but to do the Calvin Klein commercials, because they had just done, Richard had just the season before done them with Brooke Shields. So this season now he was using 5 girls to carry on the Calvin Klein. And the Calvin Klein commercials were the first ones that were being shot on videotape. Everything else was shot on film. But he had that crisp look, and, you had to go in. There was an interview. I was there, I think, 3 days at his place with Dune Arbus, who was writing the commercials, and it was, you just cathartic. You spilled your guts. He'd ask questions. There was crying, there was laughing, there was whatever it was, and from that they extracted the commercials. So it was me, Martha Plimpton, Andy McDowell was in those. There was a girl named Lauren Helm that was in them, and I just remember thinking, but it's Richard Avedon. And again, luckily I had my makeup done, so I knew it does take 2 hours. And then Richard shot with that big 8x10 camera, and he would shoot 8 frames, like the most 8. Usually I think it was like 5 pictures, and then he was done. Whereas with Scavullo, because I shot with Scavullo, it was like rapid fire, 35 millimeter. He was shooting and click, 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 and you handed another body and click, 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 click. And so you really do know that everybody's got their own set of, their agenda of working style.
Did Avedon actually take the pictures when you were in front of him?
He would, let me think about this.
Because my understanding is the way he usually worked.
He would stand next to the camera, and I'm trying to think if he shot.
My understanding is that
Shari holds the hand out with like the little thing going, is he shooting? Or was his assistant? No, he would shoot, but he had an assistant that would drop in the frame.
Oh, okay, because I knew somebody who was working with him, and I was told that one of the things he would often do is he would either stand or sit next to the lens, and he would talk to the subject and his assistant, and then he would just have a cable release in there, and he would just fire it, you wouldn't even know.
He'd have the cable release, yeah.
And he would also sometimes tell people, we're not shooting it, we're just checking the lights. And he would just talk with you, and the assistant would quietly change the holders, and he would just talk, and every once in a while just pop off an exposure, and then go, okay, we're done. And you didn't even know that it started.
No, I remember him, like I said, I had to remember, he had the release, but really it was 5. I think there was once that we went 7 times, maybe.
Yeah.
But after a while, I had shot with Scavullo, I had shot with everybody else, and everybody was shooting 35 millimeters and shooting a lot of frames. And, it was the first time you're shooting with him, and just 5 pictures later, it's like, oh, you're done. You're going, oh, God, was I that bad that you're not going to, waste a little more film on me?
Did he shoot your father ever? Did Avedon shoot your dad?
I don't remember if he did, but Scavullo shot Dad and me for Essence magazine, for an article in Essence. And the first time Richard sent me, he said, Vogue wants to use this print, but I want to use this print. This is the first Vogue cover because I had 5 Vogue covers. And he said, Vogue wants to use this print, but I want to use this one. And he'd sent me a Xerox copy of and I looked at both, and that was before they were retouched. And again, this is the first time I'm going, what the WTF? Yeah. You're using either of these? Jesus! You can see everything. Yeah. And I said, why? And I just said to him, whatever you decide, I'm good with it. And going, oh God, oh my God,
You're
oh my
the genius.
God.
What do I know?
Yeah. And of course, Rob Carr, I think it was Rob Carr or somebody, whoever he had to retouch, because Greg used Rob Carr. But, they had those hairline brushes, and they would just, every little nook and cranny was filled in. And by the time the magazine came out, I went, again, damn, I'm looking good. Yeah. Jesus, that is not what I saw. That is not the picture that Richard sent me.
And maybe not with Avedon, but in general, and as your career grew, did you interact with the photographers? Did you work with them, as it were, collaborate? Or
I was always pretty comfortable. And except for after the first couple of times, and you get what the routine is, it didn't take me long to figure it out. Yeah. It's like, all right, well, I know they're going to retouch that. Oh, well, no, I know they're going to do that. So I've always been kind of at ease in front of the camera. Some photographers were a little, standoffish, probably didn't even want to be there. That's what I got the impression of. But by and large, if you're having a good time and they're having a good time, hopefully something comes out of it. I've also never been really that concerned about how I look. And I never really thought of myself as that pretty. But to me, it was, it's just what it was. And then once you did see, like I said, once it was retouched to death, and you're going, wow, I do look good,
Sure.
Wow, okay, that's not bad.
I want her number,
But
and it's me.
But I've never, ever been concerned about that.
Yeah.
That it's never been, if I had to go out in something and Nina Blanchard was on, you got to look good, it's like, all right, well, I'll look as good as I can possibly look.
And never any thought of kind of switching to that side of the camera in the fashion sense or in
No, I shot some fashion.
Did you?
Yeah.
Also, yeah.
Yeah, I did, but it was always, I've always wanted to be behind the camera, but I was making money in front of the camera.
Right.
So you tend to lean towards where that paycheck's coming in from. So I
But
have
that
not
also-
done as much behind the camera as I would have loved to have done. That's what I should say. But now that I'm 65, I'm finding myself more and more behind the camera.
That's great. That's great.
What about personal projects? I mean, is there anything that really that gets you with the camera photographically that this is what I like doing when I'm just want to go away?
I love working in Photoshop too. So, and what started for me was I have this science fiction idea, this brainchild that's been in my head for 30 years. And it was by taking odd pictures. And sometimes they're manipulated, sometimes they're not. But they're all part of this book, this thing that I'm putting together called Mythostories. And there's a whole story behind it.
What's the name of this?
Mythostories. So it's Mythos Stories.
Okay.
But I trademarked Mythostories and Mythostory, and I started shooting. As a matter of fact, I was shooting this movie, The Big Empty, which is a Jon Favreau movie. I was shooting the stills for it. And we were shooting out on the desert floor, and they had a big 10K light, like about a quarter of a mile behind us, and it was that parched, crackled, desert floor. It was nighttime. It was freezing. It was, in the daytime it was hot, but at night. Sam had smartly told me, because I was driving up to Baker, which is, a few hours out of LA right before you hit Vegas. We're shooting out of the desert. And Sam had said, take your winter coat, take your down coats from Canada. And I went, oh, yeah, okay, could get cold. So I was standing out. It was the very first frame I shot with this wide 14 millimeter lens, Canon lens. And I held the camera down, like sort of low, so you just see the outline of my body, and my legs were stretched out. And I shot this picture, and my leg, it's this weird ass shadow that's just like zoomed the legs, and there's this little tiny body, and the moon was right like in the perfect spot. But then I took my my 400 lens and shot the moon, got my monopod, shot the moon, and then put the two together. So the moon looks much bigger on the picture. But, in my head I'm going, I didn't really manipulate it. I just used two different photos. But this is how the picture started out. So that was one of the first photos of this. And it's called Jack Lands on the Moon. So, Jack is this character, DJAK is the name of this character. She's a cyber messenger that has to do all these things. At one point she has to take care of this kid. And it's all, and she ends up taking him to all these different planets. So I would shoot these weird ass pictures and sometimes make them a little weirder and a little stranger. I think I sent you a couple where one is called, does this come in a size 3? I was in a dressing room at a place, and my sister was standing in the dressing room, and we wear these slouch socks from the 80s. So she's standing there, and it was just funny the way it was. And all these ladies' legs you just see below the thing. And I just took one of her feet and I made it a third foot. So there's like these 3 legs. So it's all part of this weird ass journey that this character does. And I just had so much fun creating that over the years. I still haven't put the book together, but I've got thousands of pictures that go with this story. And, that to me was you learn the thing that a picture is worth 1,000 words. It's one of those things you hear as a kid. And to me, it's true. It's that moment in time that makes you think. And you're going, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? Or there's even a moment in one of Ben Stiller's movies. It's the Thurber movie that he did, where Sean Penn plays a photographer, and what's the
name of that movie?
Walter Mitty.
Yeah, the Walter Mitty.
Right.
Yeah.
So and he's waiting for that moment where the snowcat's going to come out, and you think you're waiting, and it's so rare that it happens, and finally the snowcat comes out, and he doesn't shoot the picture, and Walter Mitty goes, well, why didn't you shoot the picture? He goes, sometimes I just like to look. Sometimes I just like to have that moment, and it's your moment. And in my head, I've had so many of those going, God, I wish I had my camera, or why didn't I take the picture, or I have the camera and I didn't take the picture, and you do have that moment where it's special to you. I was flying from the United States to Germany, and I opened up the window. It was a night flight, and it was all across the poles. And I remember everybody's quiet. The plane is dark, and I woke up and I lifted up the shades, and there was a prism that went the entire horizon of the entire horizon. It wasn't just like a spot; it was all the way across. And I went, oh my God, where's my camera? And I wanted to wake up everybody. Like, oh my God, people, wake up, open the windows, look at this. Right. And, and you just sit there and you go in awe. And then, you're flying, and finally it kind of drifts away, and you're going, did I just see that? Yeah. That was that moment for me. And shit, I wish I'd had a picture.
But you remember it. I
remember it to this
it.
day.
There are times I have not photographed because I want to be there.
Yeah. Right.
I want to be there. As soon as I put a camera to my face, and I love photography.
Right.
As soon as I put a camera to my eye,
you're
though,
separate.
you're already you're part.
Yeah.
You're abstracting things. And,
despite
that, it sounds like though the humor is in kind of the base of a lot of what.
Oh, most of mine's
you
humor,
want to do. Yeah. It seems that way.
Although I like taking pictures of, when people say, "Can you take a picture?" A headshot of me. I like making them look pretty, and that's the other thing. People are always a little concerned about headshots, and they're like, or sometimes people like overdo the retouching, and I make a point of saying, "Look, I do retouch your pictures, but I don't retouch them to the point where, you look like you've had, shots." But I say I do some retouching because there's a big difference between looking at somebody three-dimensionally, because your eye's always traveling, they're always moving, there's a moment, so you're never locked in that one moment. I said, whereas when you're in a two-dimensional form and you're flattened out like that, no matter how great your lens is, you do want to touch it up just a little bit, because otherwise it's distracting and you don't look that harsh in 3 dimensions as you do in 2 dimensions.
We don't see every pore when we're just in conversation. You don't see that stuff.
So, I do retouch, but, I go, but minimally. And people go, oh my God, look, wow, I look great, and you didn't do anything. Yeah, all right, okay. Yeah, not a thing. No,
we don't. That's correct. We don't call it anything. Yeah. We call it retouching. You're right.
Now, there's a series that I was reading about called "Give Me Your Goofiest."
Give me your goofiest.
Humor, and ultimately that is going to be a fundraiser.
These are all these wonderful ideas, because when you're a photographer and if you don't have an assignment, these are the things you end up thinking, all right, I'm going to do this and make some book. There's always a coffee table book in your head, or 4 or 5 of those. And of course, coffee table books don't really sell that much. So you're sort of thinking, am I really going to do this coffee table book?
And could you have anything other than coffee with them? No one's ever explained that to me. Could you have a Coke with it, or a Sprite?
It has to be. And doesn't have to be on a table. Could it be like on a chair? But no, I started again. It was this friend who was a comedian. She gave me this weird ass look, and I just shot the picture, and we wept laughing and just going, oh my God. I said, this is your new headshot. It was the joke. And, you just like, every time we would look at this picture, the tears would start running. And I said, I should do a book. So I did a photo show, which was called Give Me Your Goofiest. And I got not just celebrities, but people on the street. I said, give me your goofiest. As a matter of before I leave, I'm going to get all of you guys to do it. But it's give me your dumbest look. Right. Really, what's the dumbest, stupidest, funniest, goofiest look you can possibly do?
We have no trouble with that. We're pretty good at that.
And I would shoot that picture. And then this show, I think I had like 60 shots in this show. And everybody went, that's, it's kind of brilliant. I'm sure lots of people have done it. But Johnny Depp gave me shots, and there's quite a few celebrities that said, "Yeah, here you go." They're like, "What do I care? I'm worth billions."
And this idea of owning it, and you were speaking about paparazzi, and that's a bit prior to today's day and age where everything's out there, and this idea of privacy. We're dealing with a new idea of privacy.
There is no privacy anymore.
All those photos.
The second you got a cell phone, you lost your privacy.
Yeah, no, totally. But do you just kind of brush off bad photos of you?
Oh yeah, there's been so many. I'm 65 now. There's been plenty of bad photos, and you just it's like, who cares? I've always had a sensibility of the pratfalls and downfalls of being in this entertainment industry, and I've never taken it personally. I mean, once in a while, if you don't get a part, you're going, well, why didn't I acted my ass off for that. But then, it's on to the next.
And then usually find out somewhere down the line there's a reason why, and you say, oh, I could live with that. I find often the times when I've been kicked in the butt and I'm saying, why me? And I look back and go, okay, that was actually good. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. It's a godsend. Oftentimes,
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe one or two last questions. That's all right.
Oh, please. I've got all the time in the world. Just got to make spaghetti sauce for Harry at 5.
Oh, nice. Okay. He lives here in the city? Actually, that was one of my questions.
All right, then you only have one more. Go ahead. Was that it? Yes. Yeah.
You two are kind of but of all the photos of your father, and there's so many obviously for work, but civil rights, marches, and he's been with everybody. Is there anything that is on the wall at your house? What stands out? What's your favorite photo of him?
There's a great picture, and it's on the news all the time, where he's laughing with Martin Luther King. It's a famous photo. I don't even know who the photographer is, but every time around Martin Luther King's birthday or Harry's birthday, somehow that picture reemerges and finds its way back into the press. And it was just one of those special moments that you kind of remember. Even if you weren't in the room at that time, but knowing how friendly, they were best friends. A lot of people think, well, no, really, they were best friends. And the idea that your best friend is taken away so drastically like that, but you have that moment, that one, that 1,000-word moment that just happened at that moment that somebody captured, and that, you can save that forever. You can savor that forever. So that picture of him, I'm trying to think. We have a lot of pictures.
Sure. Well, that's a great answer.
Oh, no doubt.
We have a lot of pictures.
How about
at Harry's house? Suddenly there was like, oh God, really? You're hanging that one, Dad? But no, there's, and then Scavullo shot pictures, like I said, pictures of Dad and me for Essence magazine. That was really pretty because we both had our makeup on, we had our hair pieces in place, everything was, and you look really pretty, and you're going, oh God, yeah, that's kind of a special moment. But no. The answer to the question is like, no, there's lots of good pictures and,
Yeah. How about of yourself? Any photos?
There's a picture that Richard Avedon shot, and it was a Vogue cover that actually was my favorite Vogue cover, where it's a big smile and I'm having these multicolored pajamas, like silk pajamas on. And what happened was we got that shot, and I remember thinking, oh, great. And he came over. This was, I think, probably the third or fourth magazine. So I was comfortable with Richard Avedon. I also still had a crush on him, but he came over and he bit my cheek. When it's like, I thought he was coming for, I was like, what's he doing? He's getting close. Oh my God, this is great. No. He came over, bit my cheek, and I don't know if he shot the picture or if his assistant shot the picture, but he then sent that picture to me. So I have that picture. It's hanging in my husband's office. I'll text that to him when I get home. I'll text that one to him.
Yeah.
Where he, it was that moment where we're going, my mouth's wide open, my crooked teeth are showing, and he's like biting my cheek. And it was like, that's one of those breathtaking moments where you're going, oh my God, the guy I have a crush on is like eating my face.
And cut.
At least I said face.
Waiter, check please. Waiter.
That was a great.
Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah. What's new? What's next?
I might. Yeah. Well, I'm getting ready. We're in pre-development because we're seeing if we can get funded. But it's going to be Bob Marley's. It was just Bob Marley's 75th birthday. I met Sedella and Roe, who are two of his 8 million children, but they run the foundation, the Bob Marley estate. And she wanted to do something exciting next year, and she is pitched to a producer the idea of getting 5 or 6 people to shoot short movies. I think 42 minutes. So they're long, but they're I think 42 minutes and under, movies that are inspired by Bob's music. So the guy that's putting that together is a friend of mine and said, come in and pitch Roe and Sedella, one of your ideas. Which song do you want? I've always wanted to shoot a series about people of color that were cowboys. Cowboys and cowgirls. It was called Folks of Color. And to me, it was supposed to be a series, and it was a movie. It was in development at Showtime. It was like, oh my God, 30 years I wanted to do this. But now suddenly I had the opportunity to shoot. I said, I want Buffalo Soldier. And he went, oh, great, the one song that we don't have the rights to. I said, well, that's the one I want.
Yeah.
So sure enough, they said, yeah, I think we can get the rights to that.
Yeah.
Come in and pitch. And I went, I'm pepping the pitch, and I went, all right. And I had a harmonica, and I learned how to play Buffalo Soldier the night before on my harmonica. Really rough, not a good version of it, but and I said, I want to do this, but I want to make it about Kathy Williams. And I said, who changed her name to William Kathy and was the only female Buffalo Soldier at the turn, 1900. And when I pitched this idea to Stella, and I said, the other thing is all the books that anything you read about her is how she was so excited to be a soldier, and she cut her hair and, joined and marched and was, all about it.
Right.
I said, that's just not true. Yeah. I said she was contraband of war, which meant she was a slave. When they were freeing the slaves, they actually took a lot of the slaves to come work for them, for the Union armies. And so they had to still do dishes and still wash clothing. And my guess is that she probably ran away or killed a soldier and ended up putting on the uniform to hide. And I said, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
And Sedella just went, I think that's brilliant. Yeah, let's do that if we can do that. So so now, of course, I went, now what the hell am I going to shoot this on? Now that I'm actually going to get this movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get what you
I know,
be careful
what
you got to be careful
what you ask for. But yeah, I'm also on Tyler Perry's Sisters. I forgot that's something. I just did 6 episodes of that, where I play a ex-Marine sharpshooter with PTSD. One of the sisters is my daughter, and I smoke pot and ride a Harley. And I have blonde dreads.
Yep, so where's the challenge?
Yeah.
Yes.
Shari, it was so terrific having you here to talk. It was very enlightening. It's interesting to hear your story, your path, and where you went and where you didn't go. If you are not a subscriber to our podcast, all you have to do is head on over to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, or Spotify and sign up. And you can always find this on the B&H Explorer website, as well as the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group. My name is Alan Weitz, and on behalf of John Harrison, Jason Tables, thank you so much for tuning in today.